Now this here is, if you saw the box, this is from Mercury Magnetics. So this will be, hopefully, the new power transformer for our, was it 61 Fender Bassman, the brown face era. The amp you guys saw it. There's a couple of videos already out for that amplifier. And yeah, that arrived with a Vibrolux, a vintage Vibrolux transformer in it. And so that is not going to give you the power you need to correctly run the Bassman. So we needed to get a new power transformer. All right, there you go. Lots and lots of leads here. Looks good. Oh, I didn't realize these were made in California. Very cool. So I don't know if it shows the model. I'm not sure. 1323. Feels nice and beefy. So cool. That's fantastic. And we'll go ahead and put this off to the side and open up the other box. Continuing on with the theme, we've got another box of goodies. So this is from Antique Electronic Supply, also known as Tubes and More, also known as CE Distribution. They've got a bunch of names. You can see a massive list of parts here for a number of amps that we have on the workbench. Some you've seen, some you have not. So we'll go ahead and open this up while we're here. All right, what do we got here? So we got a couple 3 prongs. So these are from Tubes and More. I've never used these before. I've got another one I've liked and used a lot, but I figured I would try theirs out because it's pretty affordable and I was already buying it. So we've got a few of those just to have on hand. A couple amps need it, and then just to have a little bit of a stock of stuff. I try and order more than I need. So these feel pretty beefy. These should be solid, nice and already cut, so that's helpful. I think these are 12 feet in length. I personally, especially for, well, really all my amps, I really prefer a very long power cable. I gig, and so sometimes power is really far away, so it's helpful to have a lot of reach there. There's nothing worse than these vintage amps I have that I can't put them anywhere near where I want to because of the power. So definitely a big fan of longer power cords. Jumbled bag of parts. So we got a pot here. This is the 50K. So this would be for the trem pot of the Super Reverb that had the mess up there. A couple strainer reliefs. Bunch of different value trim pots for adding adjustable bias to amplifiers. This is some fuses. This is the really kind of small, I can't remember what these are sizes called, but these are the fuses that my Dirty Shirley requires a blue fuse. I have no idea why. So it's been out, down for the count. Hopefully it does not have to end up on the workbench and just swap a fuse, but I didn't have any of these fuses, so that would be good. A bunch of caps. What value are these? 8 microfarads. So these are for the bias circuits of both the, let's see. Oh no, sorry. There's another amp you haven't seen yet. So 2 of these is for the 61 Bassman that you've seen, and the other 2 is for another amp that's actually very similar to that Bassman. I bought a bunch of these power resistors, which are really small form factor, but I believe these are 3 watt. And so I bought these in various sizes you typically see in like the doghouse, for example. For somebody that's fine with swapping out the carbon comps. These are really, really high quality and Vichets and very, very low mass, low size. Bunch of those. Couple disc caps that I need for some of the amps. A couple of carbon comps just to have as backups. I have a few, but I was running low on some values outside of the new old stock stuff I purchased, which is still on the way. A bunch of these mod caps, I burned through these. So many amplifiers use the 20 microfarad 500 volts. So that's good to just keep a big stock so I don't have to reorder for every amp. So I've got a large supply of those now. These are probably the 25. Yes, these are 25 microfarad 50 volts, which are quite a bit bigger than the mod. Let me grab the mods real quick. So this is for, again, an amp you guys have not seen yet, I believe. I got to double check. But yeah, you can see this is a 25 microfarad 50 volt, and so is this. So it's quite a bit bigger. I don't know if you can see that with all the reflections, but yeah, these are more expensive. I would much rather go mod for most stuff, but aesthetically, these look a lot better because they're black, so they don't stand out. Whereas the, kind of bright, shiny, aluminum looking covering on these, they just stand out a bit too much for certain amps, in my opinion. So I do try and offer the Sprig when somebody wants something a bit more subtle. Switch, this was for the standby switch of the Bassman as well. What else we got here? Use the 80 microfarad, 450 volts for an amplifier you guys have not seen yet. And good lord, these are light. Holy cow. So this must be like a lot of air in here and a much smaller cap in this, because these feel like they weighed literally nothing. So that's for a blackface amp you guys have not seen yet. Bunch of caps here. So these are a bunch of 22 microfarad. So yeah, this is again for... This might be for 2 amps, it looks like. So I believe it's like 7 for an amp you guys haven't seen yet. And then the Bassman, I think, is taking up the rest. Some more jacks here. So 5 microfarad. So for part of the circuit that requires 5 microfarad, we've got that. Got some more of these jacks here that I ordered. Want to try these out. So this is... Why did I buy these? I can't remember. New trick. Oh, this might be for... I'm working on building some cables, but it might be for speaker connections for some of the amplifiers that I want to build a box that actually allows me to plug in a different cabinet or a different speaker set for the amplifier. I don't know why I bought 3 though. Can't remember the reason why I purchased those, but either way, like you guys have seen, I've done to the... I did it to my Vox AC10, which you've not seen on the channel yet, but I've also done that to the Magnatone 108, which I did do a video on, the little box I built and installed, if I remember correctly. And then just a couple more ceramic disc caps that were required. So, large haul, and I've got another order of parts coming, hopefully in the next couple of days, a bunch of new old stock carbon comp resistors, new old stock ABs, again, for a project that you guys have not seen yet, that is calling for... yeah, we're going to really take our time and really do right by an all original amplifier. So looking forward to that. So with all of this out of the way, we can go ahead and move forward with more of the projects. We're back here with the 61 Fender Bassman. We can finally get started on this project. We've been waiting for parts. I've got a lot more actually on order still. I'm waiting for that to arrive, but we do have enough to get going at least on the project. There's a ton to be done here. If you guys saw the part 1 and part 2 of this series, we kind of went through the reveal as well as kind of going through the circuit and identifying some things. Since then, I've noticed some other discrepancies. I've compared the circuit to, you know, some all original ones and found some things. So there's just a lot to be done over here and a lot to be figured out. But we do have parts to be able to focus on this side of the amplifier today. So that's what we're going to do. Namely the power transformer and the bias circuit. I might be optimistic getting all that done since it's already pretty late, but we're going to go ahead and try. So as a reminder, this is a 1967 Vibrolux / Tremolux power transformer. You can see very clearly it does not actually fit the chassis whatsoever, but it was shoehorned in here by a previous person. So we will be ripping that out, and we received the power transformer you guys hopefully saw me unbox, which is from Mercury Magnetics. So that should be great. And should be a direct drop-in replacement to fit the holes perfectly. And then beyond that, we will also be trying to tackle this here, the bias circuit. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got these soldering irons heating up. We need the big iron for these really bad chassis grounds here, and then all of the connections. And while we're at it, we will also cut the 2-prong since we will be replacing this with a 3-prong. So... all right, without further ado, let's get going. So that wasn't even in the eyelet either, just tack soldered on top. Looks like there is an existing wire here that was just left there. I think that's probably going to be a pretty common theme, what we're going to find here. We will definitely be redoing all of this once we install the new power transformer. So don't worry about that. You can see they actually left... the existing wire is in every connection, it looks like. Maybe I can pull it out here to show you. So, and I totally forgot to take the fuse out. Let me do that real quick. So yeah, they just left the wires in there and just did kind of the laziest possible fix. And I don't understand, to be honest. There's people that, when I share this sort of stuff, people defend that. And I just don't understand that. There's something weird. I don't know. There's like a subset of people that watch amp tech videos and stuff that are like hack apologists. It's very weird to me. I would think we would all want things to be done right. And I don't really understand what you can come up with as an excuse for not just pulling out, because you had to remove the old wire, because you had to remove the old power transformer. So, instead of just doing what you saw, it takes literally 2 seconds, heating it up and pulling the wire, they snipped it and put in the new one. But then you got to try and jam a new wire next to an old wire, and it just makes it actually harder, in my opinion. But there's no benefit. But people will fight me on that and try and claim there's a benefit to doing that way. And I don't understand that one bit. So it's been very interesting to me as I've kind of gotten more into this world and shared more of this content. The reception overall has been very positive, but definitely look at this. So here's the new one they put in, but here's the old from the original power transformer that was just left in there for, some inexplicable reason. Why? I don't know. Like, there's no benefit to doing it that way. It looks bad. And yeah, so it's very interesting to me. See, that was the one that was just tack solder on there. This top view that you guys see in these videos is a bit deceptive. Camera really, yeah, see, that was also basically tack soldered. But I can't really see. You guys have a much better view of things than I do. All right, so that concludes all of the non-ground connections for this power transformer. So let's grab the big iron and knock out these grounds. I assume these will lift up pretty easy because they do not look like they're attached very well. Yeah. Instantly. Those are barely attached, but you could tell visually. It was probably the original ground location for the original power transformer, but I think we'll probably remove all that solder and start fresh there with the new power transformer install. But with that, now we can go ahead and move everything out of the way and grab the new replacement. Get a closer look at the shoddy install. All right, here's our stack of washers and lock washers. But they just dremeled the bolts to be shorter because it wouldn't fit. So these are the original length and these are the shortened ones. So this is, as far as I can tell, a perfectly salvageable power transformer if you're on the lookout for a Vibrolux or Tremolux power transformer, blackface era. But yeah, we got something going on here. I definitely want to remove this and heat shrink it if there is a little damage to the wire there. And then as far as bolts are concerned, somebody's going to have to find the next owner, or the owner of this amp when he sells it, he's going to have to purchase longer bolts so that it can actually be attached to something. So there you go. You get a hacked chassis and a hacked power transformer for the price of one, I guess. I don't know, for no real good reason that I can tell, unless you had to do a quick fix to get it back on the road for a gig or something. But I don't know. I feel like that's the excuse for every like hack job, and how many people are doing those sort of fixes to really, really nice vintage amps like this. Who knows? Anyways, let's go and grab the new one. Pull off the electrical tape here. See what horrors are hidden beneath. All right, so it looks like it was cut, and instead of putting heat shrink, they did electrical tape. I mean, what's the excuse for that one, guys? Like, surely you have some kind of heat shrink if you're doing any kind of work. I don't know. It just makes me sad, to be honest, just because it's like these amps are so precious to me, but I guess, not to everybody. And who knows, maybe this was done a long, long time ago. Somebody pointed out that on the comments before. Maybe this was done in, the late 60s, early 70s or something, and these weren't that valuable back then. I don't know. But all I can do is just point out the flaws I see and fix them as best as I can, take or leave my commentary along the way. The solder joint looks good, so I'm not going to mess with that. All right, that's much better. I feel much better about that. Here we have the replacement power transformer. I've went ahead and labeled all of the wires already. So one thing I want to do just while we're here is we will remove the death cap and remove this because it's no longer needed. And then, I mean, this doesn't even look connected. Yeah, see, that's not even, that's not even connected to the chassis anymore. You know, my initial theory with this amplifier in the first video is that it was a Friday amp. I mean, I don't know any, like it's doesn't look like this was touched before. This looks factory. The flux around it looks the same age as the flux over here. So yeah, I think it's just kind of supports. It was just not their best example that Fender did in 1961. Not to say it can't be a great amp or won't be a great amp, but yeah, I could use some touch-ups for sure. So while I've got the power transformer out, actually, I'm going to go ahead and just hit this with the big soldering iron while it's hot, and just make sure that's a solid connection, because that is an important ground for the bias circuit here. And then we'll also remove this. I've lifted it thinking it was going to be so much heavier than it is without the power transformer. It's so light. That's hilarious. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and solder this one connection really quick. Instantly, significantly better. This one right here, I think we will, I wonder if we'll be able to just kind of push it and move it like a big glob, because it doesn't look like it's attached very well. Kinda, we got a big chunk there. So this was the original, this had to have been the original location of the chassis ground connections for the transformers. So I think we actually are fine to just reuse that and maybe just prep it a little bit better without completely redoing it. And then it won't look totally out of place with the kind of older flux around it. So that should be okay. And then we can hit this one right next to it as well, so it all looks about the same. Cool, so that should look pretty uniform, those three chassis grounds. And they're nice and solid again. So now let's go ahead and load in our new, ooh, do I want to, actually, let's go ahead and do this first while we have nice access to this area. Let's take care of the bias circuit. So the plan with this is to add a little trim pot here for adjustable bias. So I've never done one with an amplifier with this sort of bias setup with the two caps and all of that. Oh, wow. Jeez. So this will be interesting to test here. The concept is very simple. We've done it many times on the channel. But basically it'll be a little pyre trim pot right here. One leg will be connected here, and then the other ones will be connected here. So I believe to this, yeah, to this resistor. So from what I can gather, this resistor is kind of balancing the voltage between the two caps, and this resistor is the biasing resistor. So this one's adjusting the bias voltage, and we will be adding a trim pot here to make it more adjustable, basically. A bit surprised how those were installed. They weren't really in the eyelet at all. We've got all of those eyelets cleaned out. Let's go ahead and clean the board real quick, and then we'll get the replacement parts prepped. So we tested the diode. It tests fine. Let's go ahead and just confirm the resistors are okay as well. There should be a 10K, and it is. This is a 60K, so what is it? Green would be 5, blue would be 6. So this is supposed to be a 56K, so it's basically right on the money. And yeah, the plan is to go ahead and pair this with a little trim pot. This resistor is not in the best visual health. but I think it's original. Maybe it's not. Perhaps it's not. I don't think I have any replacements in this size. Let me look real quick, just in case. I do not have any carbon comps in this size, but it's okay. It's a little bendy, but it's fine. All right, so for the bias caps, we have these two Sprague Atom. These are 8 microfarad 150 volts. The originals are 8 microfarad 150 volts, so these are dead on replacements. And these will be going like this, positive facing the ground connection here. So let's go ahead and get those mocked up, and then we'll have the resistor and then one of these trim pots here. So before I set up the adjustable bias here, I don't know the clearance I have with the power transformer. So we're just going to go ahead and see if we can just bolt it in for now and try and make sure all the wires aren't too in our way. All right, so I'm not sure where I left off because I stopped and just kind of sat here thinking about this a bit further. So we've got the power transformer temporarily installed. Need to go to the hardware store to get better hardware, lock washers, and fender washers that are all matching. And I wanted to install it really because of this trim pot and to see where this goes. So when I've done this in the past, I would put it basically right here, and there was more space between the bias board and the transformer to be able to fit this in right here. Now there is plenty of space really to fit it. This can be right next to this. It's not going to cause an issue, I don't think. However, this transformer bolt is really no longer accessible, but of course it's got a Phillips head on the other side that you tighten it. Once you have a lock washer here, you won't ever have to touch this side of the bolt ever again. So that's not an issue. We just have to have it, permanently installed first before we can put this in. So we're gonna have to wait on doing the rest of the bias circuit here. I'll probably just tack solder in these controls here, or this cap here, and then we'll wait on the resistor and this until I can go to the hardware store and get the parts there. But everything should work out, so it'll be okay. I just gotta pause for a second. I was trying to think if there's any other solution. There's really not a better way to do it. I could float it kind of above this resistor, but then I don't know if that's any better. So, and these are tough because they can't really bend left or right. It's really just up and down. And so I'd have to go at a bit of an angle like this and sit it above the resistor, kind of floating here. So not totally against that. Or I could also, another option would be to replace this resistor and just kind of have it really high up and then have this kind of duct under it like this, but the resistor on top of that. So that is another option as well. See, do I have this? What is this, a 10K? 101K, yeah, 10K. Let me see if I have any 10K carbon comps. Something along those lines. And then this just under it. This would go here to this eyelet. This wiper right here would go to the resistor. That would be placed like that in between those two. And then this would be connected to this. Like so. Basically be like this. That might be the move, actually. So it's out of the way, it's easy to reach. Let's do that. This is what you guys get when you watch my content. You get to watch me ramble on and troubleshoot in more or less real time. And yeah, let's go ahead. I think we'll do that. We'll remove this lead, take out this carbon comp, and replace it with a new one. So let's just go ahead and get this ground side in for all 3 components, just so it's done and held in place. So I don't have to worry about it. All right, so what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and probably solder in this side here, and then we will go ahead and grab some silicone and kind of place it under here so this isn't going to ground out and is kind of sitting on top of something. And we'll get it just under the front edge so that we can still rotate the potentiometer here. Well, we are back to square one on that. The more I thought about it, the more I started to get a little nervous having it there being held up by silicone alone, mainly because this right here is what is connected to the bias supply for the entire amplifier, this wire. And you'll see it is this kind of metal cylinder here that is fully exposed, which is just a pretty poor design in my opinion. So obviously if that touches ground and grounds out, that's a problem. So we don't want that. And having the silicone just the silicone there to kind of stop it from grounding out is not ideal. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of rest it here on the board itself. And if I have to burn another resistor because this isn't tall enough when I cut it, let's see if it's even possible or doable real quick. So basically, we'll have it like this. So if we solder this end in first, and then it'll just kind of hold it in place for us. All right, we do want to give us the ability to fairly easily remove this resistor if needed, so I'm not going to do any more than that. We'll go ahead and solder that connection super quick. Yeah, it's much better. Now, the final question is, will we be able to fit the resistor? Well, what I thought would be a fairly simple bias update ended up being quite complicated, but this should be pretty solid. I'm pretty happy with this now. So the last connection is just this one here. And just like that, we are done outside of the connection right there from the transformer here. What connection is it? I think it's this one. Nope, this one right here. Bias, so that will be going right there, and then this is done. Let's go ahead and grab a multimeter and just confirm the range we have. All right, so what we have here is the maximum resistance is about 70K, and then the minimum, of course, is the resistor value, which was about 60K, and we have no idea if this is, on the money or not. The schematic for the amplifier, if I recall, let's see if I can pull it up real quick, is a 56K. So, with more modern wall voltages and all of that, we'll have to see if that remains there. But it's a good starting point. We've got a decent little range to work with. So I feel pretty good about this, and we're definitely ending tonight there because it is quite late. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this, how it came out. It was a bit more difficult and tricky, but it looks really solid in my opinion. So cool.